we'll do this if you want.
No, that's fine. But what is it for the alma mater?
Alma mater, we just play together.
Okay. Do I get a?
I can give you a note if you need or something, like a tune.
Now? Play now. There.
I cannot see his finger. I have the light in my eyes. Foresight. Foresight. One, two.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. And good afternoon to all of you. I'm Dan Bournet, and for the past 35 years, I've been the public address announcer at Tiger Stadium, and for the last 33 years at the Pete Maravich Assembly Center. I've had the blessing of having emceed 3 national championship football celebrations. But as an LSU graduate, nothing can compare with what I've been honored with today, and that is to be MC of LSU's first ever investiture ceremony, celebrating the installation of William F. Tate IV as only the second president to lead the consolidated LSU family of 8 campuses, ranging from our 2 health services centers in New Orleans and Shreveport to LSU Alexandria, LSU Shreveport, LSU Eunice, and in the capital city, the flagship, LSU Ag Center, and LSU's Pennington Biomedical Research Center. And that's to say nothing of the footprint that our mighty LSU family has made in each of Louisiana's 64 parishes. We are very fortunate to be able to gather here, both in person and by our live stream, at the Union Theater, which has served over the years as a venue for incoming students starting their journeys at LSU, many artistic performances, and a gathering place for the LSU community. And over the years, the scene of graduations of many of our schools and colleges as our graduates launched their careers with their LSU degrees. While an investiture ceremony is an ancient academic tradition, today marks the first time LSU has had such an important celebration. Today's ceremony is infused with tradition, pride, optimism, and it provides us an opportunity not just to celebrate our new leader, Dr. William F. Tate IV, but also to turn the page, to take a step forward, to look beyond today into the bright future that awaits LSU just around the corner. On the platform behind me, you see a variety of individuals serving as representatives of our most important constituencies. I will introduce them. They're not in any particular order. They're not seated in a particular row. I ask each of them to stand as they are introduced, and I would ask you to hold your applause. Mandy Lopez, President of LSU's Faculty Senate. Amber Salvadras, President of LSU's Staff Senate. Monica Aguilera from LSU Alexandria, the student representative on the LSU Board of Supervisors, representing students at all LSU campuses. Larry Clark, Chancellor, LSU Shreveport. David Lewis, Interim Chancellor, LSU Health Sciences Center, Shreveport. Nancy Sorensen, Chancellor, LSU Eunice. Paul Carell, Chancellor, LSU Alexandria. John Kerwin, Executive Director, LSU Pennington Biomedical Research Center. Luke Laborde, Interim LSU Vice President for Agriculture and Dean of the College of Agriculture. Matthew Lee, Interim Executive Vice President and Provost. Roy O. Martin, Dr. Ursula White, and Bree Robertson, who will be speaking to us later about the importance of putting scholarship first. Robert Dampf, Chairman of the Board of Supervisors. Mary Werner, immediate past Chair of the Board of Supervisors. Ramey Starnes, incoming Chair of the Board of Supervisors. James Williams, Chair of the Presidential Search Committee. Professor James Mendez, Associate Dean of Student Affairs at Loyola University, Chicago. Leah Moody, Board Member from the University of South Carolina. Did I say that right? South Carolina? Okay, good. I want to make sure. Good old SEC school. Badil Lagarde, who is a cousin of President Tate and who is the Vice Provost for Faculty and a Professor of English at Loyola of Chicago. Henry Frierson, Professor, University of Florida. Stephen Cutler, Interim Provost at the University of South Carolina. Darrell Tate, brother of the President. April Taylor Tate, the President's sister-in-law. Howard Johnson, who's the former Dean of Graduate School at Syracuse University. Lori White, President of DePauw University. Adrian Dixon, Professor of Educational Policy at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. Dr. Kim Hunter Reed, Commissioner of Higher Education for the state of Louisiana. Kit Wellman, Professor at the University of Washington, St. Louis. And Dwan Warmack, President of Chafflin University. I think we got everybody. I hope we did. Please give our folks a big round of applause and a welcome. We will mark today as the moment that the entire LSU community came together to recognize and to celebrate and to join together behind a new president. It is particularly momentous that we come together in person and virtually during this global pandemic. We as a community are demonstrating the power of unity. We can be safe, we can be healthy, and we will not let the virus win. Together, we can thrive. In that spirit, I would like to recognize those members of our community who are integral to our collective success. Please stand as your particular descriptions are read. Our Boyd professors, LSU's most illustrious rank of faculty and the pinnacle of accomplishment within the university community. Please stand. National Academy of Sciences members. Membership is a widely accepted mark of excellence in science and is considered one of the highest honors that a scientist can receive. Please stand. Our LSU Board of Supervisors. These individuals have been granted the authority and responsibility to supervise and manage the institutions, the statewide agricultural programs, and other programs administered through the LSU system. You please stand and be recognized. We have presidents, chancellors, and representatives of our fellow Louisiana-based institutions of higher education. Please rise and be recognized. We have presidents, chancellors, and representatives of our institutions of higher education around the nation. We ask that you stand as well. We have faculty senate representatives from the LSU campuses, elected representatives of the larger body of faculty. Please stand. Staff senate representatives from the LSU campuses are here. They're elected of the larger body of staff. Please stand and be recognized. Student government representatives from the LSU campuses, elected representatives of the student bodies. Please stand. Elected officials, those chosen by the people of Louisiana to govern our local and statewide processes. Please stand and be recognized. And finally, and most importantly, with the family of President William F. Tate IV, please rise and be recognized. On behalf of the entire Louisiana State University community, we want to thank all of you for what you have done and for what you will do to support LSU and our new president and our pursuit of excellence. There are many more to be recognized, but there's only so much time in a day. How about a hand for all of these outstanding representatives? Now, ladies and gentlemen, would you please rise for the singing of our national anthem by LSU student Carrie Wilson and the LSU String Quartet. Please direct your attention to the flag. Those who have served in the military may salute, even though not in uniform. And we ask the gentlemen to please remove your hats.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets roared low, the bombs bursting in our gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
As we say in the Maravich Center, Carrie Wilson, ladies and gentlemen, along with a wonderful quartet, Rachel Saul, LSU Doctorate of Musical Arts in Violin Performance. Thank you both. Please be seated. Since its beginning in 1860, LSU has worked to open doors in the realms of education, research, and community engagement in Louisiana and around the world. Our footprint has expanded in service to the people of Louisiana, the region, the nation, and the world through extensive multi-purpose programs encompassing instruction, research, and public service. Our family of 8 campuses serves as a steadfast reminder of LSU's commitment to the state and to the people of Louisiana. Louisiana State University and Agricultural and Mechanical College had its origins as a seminary of learning. Now the flagship institution in the state, LSU is a leading research university, challenging students to achieve the highest levels of intellectual development and academic achievement. Designated as a land, sea, and space grant institution, LSU's mission is a 3-pronged approach to research, education, and outreach. LSU of Alexandria is focused on continuously responding to the needs of its region, its students, and its employers by designing degree programs that establish a foundation for continued academic growth and a platform for regional economic development. LSUA is committed to student and community growth through teaching, research, and service, and is esteemed as a contributor to the economic, cultural, and intellectual growth of Louisiana. Louisiana State University, UNIS, is the comprehensive open admissions institution of the LSU family, offering commitment to quality, state-of-the-art education, and student success in degrees, transfer preparation, career education, adult and workforce education, and customized business and industry training. LSUE is consistently ranked one of the best comprehensive community colleges. Louisiana State University Shreveport's mission is to educate a diverse population of students, engage in regional and global thought leadership through collaboration and service, and innovate to enhance the application of knowledge and intellectual discovery through faculty and student research and joint creative endeavors. The LSU Ag Center's mission is to conduct agricultural research, extension, and teaching programs that advance and maintain Louisiana's highly diverse and important agricultural industry, and to sustain our natural resources, to provide research and educational programs in the field of nutrition, and to develop Louisiana's youth and families through the 4-H program. The LSU Ag Center has offices in every one of Louisiana's 64 parishes. LSU's Pennington Biomedical Research Center is the largest academically based nutrition research center in the world, with incredible research expertise focusing on diabetes and obesity, serving as the pinnacle in nutrition and preventive medicine for Louisianians and for people around the globe. LSU Health Sciences Center, New Orleans, educates approximately 70% of Louisiana's healthcare professionals with teaching, research, and healthcare functions statewide, and the only dental school in the state. 8 centers of excellence, as well as more than 100 hospitals and other health science-related institutions. LSU Health Sciences, New Orleans, serves the people of its city well, and those around the state. LSU Health Shreveport boasts 3 state-designated centers of excellence in cancer, cardiovascular disease, and rheumatology. At the heart of it all is a strong faculty of nationally and internationally acclaimed physicians and scientists leading research efforts, educating students, and providing primary and specialty care to patients. This is but a snapshot of the imprint of LSU's footprint around the state and across the globe. Please join me in recognizing our impressive catalog of faculty, staff, students, leaders, friends, family, and beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our LSU. Let's have a hand. President Tate has summed up his vision for LSU's opportunity in 2 words: scholarship first. To illustrate the basic tenets of this vision, we have 3 speakers who will showcase what it means to live these words. Up first is Mr. Roy O. Martin III. Roy is Chairman, CFO, and CEO of Martin Sustainable Resources, LLC, Martin Timberlands, LLC, and Martco, LLC. He is also a director and co-founder of Indigo Minerals, LLC, a Houston-based oil and natural gas exploration company. Born in Alexandria, he graduated from LSU in 1982, receiving a Bachelor of Science degree in mechanical engineering. He continued his education here at LSU and got an MBA. Throughout the years, he has volunteered his time and served in various board and chair capacities for companies and organizations, such as the Lions Club, the United Way of Central Louisiana, Habitat for Humanity, American Red Cross, Rapides Regional Medical Center, Louisiana Forestry, American Heart Association in Simla, the Chamber of Commerce of Central Louisiana, and Calvary Baptist Church. He and Jonathan Martin were presented with the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award for the Southern District in 2004 and 2016, the Manufacturer of the Year for Louisiana by the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. He has served on and he has chaired the Board of Regents and has been inducted into LSU's Alumni, School of Business, School of Engineering, and Tiger Athletic Foundation Halls of Fame. He is currently on the Dean's Advisory Council and the LSU Flagship Coalition. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Roy O. Martin III.
How about those Tigers? Thank you, Dan. It is a real privilege and honor to be here today celebrating the investiture of Dr. Bill Tate. I have had the distinct pleasure of meeting him several times and had the distinct pleasure of meeting Kim Tate today. And I find that Dr. Tate and I have a lot in common. We both married up, that's for sure. This, yeah, you can clap. This is, wherever Kim is, I can't see anyone out there. My wife is out there, I think, somewhere too. And this is almost, this investiture is almost as much fun as when she and I went to Tiger Stadium and were honored to be able to raise the 2019 championship flag. And we were extremely ready for football right now. And that type of excitement is the kind of excitement I hear when I hear the word scholarship first. Because you take someone like Bree Robinson that I met just today and see the excitement in her eyes as she is about to graduate in December. It makes me very, very proud of this institution. And I want to tell you a little bit about what scholarship first means to the Martin family and my wife's family, the Kilpatrick family. First, my mother and father met at LSU in 1940 and married in 1942. They soon went off to war in World War II and faced a very uncertain future. My father served in the Coast Guard sailing a submarine hunter, and my mother worked at the USO. After World War II, they never finished their degrees, only for 2 years, but they made a priority for their children to finish college. And my sister was one of the first electrical engineers to graduate from LSU in 1973. Our children both graduated from LSU, our son in engineering, finishing with an MBA, and my summa cum laude daughter, I get to brag because I got the microphone, finished in architecture. She's the youngest licensed architect in Hastings and Nashville now, with her husband, a Belmont grad, but he did go to LSU for 2 years, so we did let him in the family. The Kilpatrick side of the family is a lot more interesting. Their family started out in West Monroe in a very small house. None of their family had ever gone to college. And from a meager start in their hard work, Bobby and Betty Kilpatrick earned master's degrees in education and agricultural science. They dedicated their lives to ensuring their children finished college, and boy, did they. How about a doctor, an MBA music grad, one executive banker, and a professional engineer? Of their 10 grandchildren, this is going to sound like a cult, they have their 10 spouses all went to LSU and got degrees. Out of this bunch, you had 3 doctors, a nurse practitioner, 4 more engineers, 2 CPAs, 2 BSN nurses, and 1 licensed architect. That is what I'm called scholarship first. They bleed purple and gold. And I've also been asked to say, why do I give to LSU? And my first comment is God loves a cheerful giver. And there's so much in our 8 campuses to give to. My mother and father started out in a very dangerous world, and now Roy O. Martin, since 1923, is the largest private landowner in Louisiana. My father-in-law's family had no college graduates and now have dozens of professionals changing the world. That is what an LSU degree does. It is powerful. It's a powerful tool for families and for Louisiana economic development. I want to help give that dream to Louisiana youth and help keep our best and brightest right here at home. Royal Martin offers scholarships to all employee children to public institutions of higher education. Currently, we have 114 students on scholarship in Louisiana and Texas. And yes, I had to write a check to Texas A&M. Begrudgingly, but I did it. Personally and professionally, my family and business have supported LSU A&M, LSUA, LSU, LSUS, Louisiana Med School, both med schools, Louisiana Agriculture, and Pennington. With the help of the LSU foundations, we have donated funds to many departments, from English to engineering, from medicine to music, from band halls to business schools, from accounting to athletics, from memorial towers to football stadiums. These donations fund many causes, including buildings, scholarships, supplemental professor pay, diabetes, and dementia research. I've served on the Board of Regents and was chair in 2015. This experience, which was basically my night job, gave me insight into the inner workings of higher education, its funding, course articulation, and program development, and working with the legislature. My work with TAF over the last 2 decades has given me insight on how athletics and academics can work together to create the synergy on campuses, with the excitement of athletics pushing the careers offered to the 99% of us who will not play professional sports. Former coach Bill Tate knows this too well. One recent example that I'm going to brag about, one of our stage attendees here, is Sinlaw Nurses for the Future. Developed in less than a year at LSUA with Chancellor Paul Carell. Paul, thank you very much. And we saw the acute need for nurses in our area pre-pandemic. We got started with the help of area hospitals, nursing home managers, Blue Cross Blue Shield Foundation, and Royal Martin, and raised almost $1 million in about a month. And half of it was just in a couple of days. And what this does, it adds stipends to the instructors that could be paid market value. They could not get people to work for their budgeted amount. So industry stepped in, did that, and raised the salaries to where they could hire master's degree nurses to teach the clinicals. We also have scholarships to low-income students from this. Now the backlog of students is going down. 1 year ago, the completers rose from 64 to 96, a 50% increase during COVID. All were placed, and most had high-paying jobs right in central Louisiana. Next on our list is Sinlaw Accountants for the Future, and perhaps a 2-year engineering start to feed the engineering school here. And I can just tell you this, businesses are eager, willing, and able to partner with LSU to fix the acute shortage of skilled professionals in our state. The public-private partnerships put together for successful business school and engineering school projects can be duplicated in our badly needed science building. So let's just do it. In summary, because Robert Danff has about an hour-and-a-half speech, I'll give because there is no greater future for Louisiana and its people than the potential held in 3 letters, LSU. I give because research and scholarship are the fuel that drive our state's economy by providing solutions for our state. I give because LSU is our only hope of keeping our best and brightest right here at home. And I feel confident that with President Tate at the helm, we will take LSU's already impressive impact and amplify it across the state through strategic prioritization, by focusing on the research and scholarly works that matter, and by constantly working to find ways to bring deserving young students to LSU's many campuses so they can fulfill their academic destinies and change lives at the same time. I am proud to have Dr. Tate at the helm of LSU, and I could not support the concept of scholarship first more. Thank you, God bless you, and be safe.
Roy Martin, ladies and gentlemen. Roy, I knew your daddy, and he would be very proud, very proud. Kathy Kilpatrick Martin, would you please stand up? This is the other member of the team to my right over here. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Roy. Now we're going to hear from a 5th-year LSU honors student, Bree Robertson. Bree is majoring in computer engineering and physics. She is one of LSU's Stamps Scholars, which is LSU's top academic scholarship for incoming freshmen, along with being named a Goldwater and Astronaut Scholar. She will share with you now how scholarship has played the major role in her accepting the challenges and opportunities that have been presented to her in college, which include working for NASA, studying abroad, publishing numerous papers. And after graduating in December, Bree will accept a position as a data scientist for SpaceX. Ladies and gentlemen, Bree Robertson.
Let me start by saying this. I never thought that part of my college experience would involve eating a live octopus. Well, not technically alive, moving, sure, served with a side of sesame oil, but nevertheless, I had to chew fast enough before the octopus could strike back. This moment came to me while working abroad in South Korea, an opportunity that came to me while here at LSU. And when I think back to that moment, I cannot help but to think about how LSU has provided opportunities for me to have unique and impactful adventures. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bree Robertson, and I am a testament to the idea of scholarship first, well before that ideology had a name in our halls at LSU. 4 years ago, I received a call from LSU that changed my life. After many weeks of essay writing and interviews, I learned that I had been awarded the Stamps Scholarship, which is LSU's #1 academic scholarship for incoming freshmen. At the time, I did not know the scholarship would introduce me to the brilliant minds that walk our inspiring halls here at LSU. I did not know that I was going to learn from these minds and bring those ideologies across the world. I did not know that I would soon, within my very first year at LSU, travel to Puerto Rico and commence lightning research there. I only knew that LSU was investing in my future, and that had to be a good sign. Within that first semester, I became involved with undergraduate research, where I learned to apply ideas and principles that I learned within the classroom. I applied these ideas to important topics like lake health monitoring and gamma radiation. Most importantly, if not for my step into undergraduate research, I would have never had the opportunity and thrill of eating the live octopus. I was in South Korea at the time for an international research opportunity with the National Science Foundation. My research mentor here at LSU encouraged me to apply, and when I was accepted, he took it upon himself to teach me Korean prior to my departure. Through this experience, I applied the principles that I learned at LSU to cancer research, crafting a tool using artificial intelligence to better quantify the effects of cancer drugs on cell growth. I spent hours and hours learning the intricacies of what artificial intelligence is and how we can use it to impact our world for the better. When I returned from South Korea with this ideology of artificial intelligence, I went on to talk about this to my peers, both through conversation and through lecture. I even went on to intern at NASA, where I used artificial intelligence to help make our future Mars missions be heard loud and clear when our astronauts want to talk to us. None of this, my opportunity, would have been possible if not for LSU's investing in me. And that's what excites me the most about this idea of scholarship first. When a university puts scholarship first, they put students first. They put student experiences first. LSU paved the way for me to be who I am today by investing in my future and allowing me opportunities to travel abroad, to research cancer, and to become a scholar not just among those here at LSU, but among the nation and the world. My story is not unique, and the LSU community is brimming with passionate leaders and scholars going on to impact their communities. Several of us have traveled the world to study and to research, and others have traveled to the most remote regions of the globe to provide critical life support. Some of us have gone on to redefine policy to make the world a better place, and others have chosen skills to redevelop tools to improve their community. Committing the university to put student ingenuity, scholarship first, will propel LSU to soar well above other institutions. President Tate, as you take the reins of this university, of LSU, I want you to invest both full-heartedly and financially in the students that are here and the students that are to come, so that they can go on to have their own live octopus moment and share the work that they do here at LSU with the worldwide community. Thank you.
Great job, Bree, thank you, and good luck in your career at SpaceX. As an LSU graduate, literally helps people shoot for the stars. Next up is Dr. Ursula White, a native of Monroe, Louisiana. Dr. White earned her BS degree in biology at LSU, Baton Rouge. She was awarded an LS Lamp Bridge to the Doctorate Fellowship, supported by the National Science Foundation, an incredible honor, and went on to obtain her PhD in adipocyte biology at LSU. Dr. White is currently an assistant professor of clinical science and is the director of the Physiology of Human Adipose Tissue Laboratory at Pennington Biomedical Research Center. Her research addresses the important roles of adipose tissue in affecting health outcomes and investigates the causes of health consequences of obesity and related diseases. She has been awarded funding from numerous grants through the NIH to support her work. Dr. White remains committed to understanding the triggers of chronic disease that plague the community in order to inform effective prevention and treatments to improve health outcomes. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ursula White.
Good afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity to speak at this occasion and to share my experiences that embrace the vision of scholarship first from a biomedical research perspective as a faculty member. My journey to scholarship through academic research began during my PhD studies at LSU. By definition, scholarship is academic study to acquire or advance the knowledge of an individual. As a grad student, I learned some interesting facts about the basic functions of adipocytes, or fat cells. Despite their bad reputation, fat cells are important to store energy in the body and are essential to maintain health. Adipocytes also produce hormones that are not produced anywhere else in the body, one of which, leptin, was discovered to have profound effects on appetite and food intake, creating an important link between adipocytes and obesity. During this experience, I learned that basic scientific discoveries are essential and serve as the building blocks that lead to great advancements. Equipped with a firm knowledge base in adipocyte biology, I was ready to expand my expertise and embrace a more translational approach to investigate human disease. As a world leader in chronic disease research and with its comprehensive infrastructure, Pennington Biomedical Research Center conducts basic, clinical, and population research. And this aligned perfectly with my research aspirations. Basic research is important, but it's also necessary to translate these findings to human subjects to address health problems and enhance the quality of life for the general population. For example, many basic discoveries have translated to the development of drugs that are used to treat chronic diseases that are associated with obesity. One class of drugs, TZDs, directly affects adipocytes and is used to treat type 2 diabetes. Another type 2 diabetes drug was even developed from the saliva of a venomous lizard, the Gila monster. As my scholarship journey continued, I learned of other basic discoveries to show that adipocytes in different areas of the body actually behave differently, and that it's not necessarily the quantity of adipose tissue that's important, but the location in the body can have a greater effect on your health. These findings paved the way for us to conduct clinical studies at Pennington Biomedical to study apple-shaped versus pear-shaped women, to better understand how body shape can impact health and why adipose tissue storage in the lower body regions may be more healthy. My current NIH clinical study aims to better understand how the functions of adipose tissue can impact health outcomes, specifically during changes in body weight. Let's face it, whether it's the freshman 15 during college, the COVID-15 during the pandemic, or just indulging over the holidays, we can all identify with cycles of weight gain followed by weight loss. But the impacts of these changes on the body are not yet fully understood. There are many other examples of scientific advancements resulting from groundbreaking research conducted at Pennington Biomedical. Studies like MotorPack, which seeks to understand at a molecular level the impact of exercise on the adipose tissue and skeletal muscle, and why different individuals may have different responses to exercise. The LeCat Center, which is a clinical translational science program across various Louisiana institutions to support research in disease prevention and improved healthcare in underserved populations. Or the Bariatric Metabolic Institute, which is not only equipped to treat obesity through bariatric surgery, but also strives to better understand the mechanisms of how these treatments work and impact the body. Ladies and gentlemen, this is scholarship first. In all of its forms, from basic, mic drop. In all of its basic forms, from basic, translating to clinical and population, research is an integral component of scholarship, as we can only advance our knowledge through new learning and discovery. President Tate, congratulations. I am eager and excited to see your vision for Scholarship First to come to fruition at Louisiana State University. And I look forward to continuing my journey to embody Scholarship First through transformative and impactful research. Thank you for your attention, and go Tigers.
Dr. White, thanks so much for all of the outstanding work that you and your colleagues are doing into obesity, chronic disease, and all of those things that befall us as we go through life. I myself am the recipient of about 15 pandemic pounds. So if you see me after class, I'll take some advice from you, okay? Now it's a real pleasure to introduce Robert Dampf. Robert is the chair of the LSU Board of Supervisors. He's a partner in a mediation firm called Perry Dampf Dispute Solutions. They mediate, they arbitrate. They're headquartered here in Baton Rouge. As a mediator and an arbitrator, he has participated in over 5,000 mediations and lectured on the negotiation and mediation process throughout the United States. He's a native of Baton Rouge. He's been included in the best lawyers in America and is a distinguished fellow of the American College of Civil Trial Mediators. But most importantly, he's a graduate of LSU Law. He is an ardent and unflinching supporter of LSU, and he dedicates an unbelievable amount of time toward the betterment of our university. Ladies and gentlemen, the chair of the LSU Board of Supervisors, Robert Dampf.
It is my great pleasure, as I find the mic, here we go. It is my great pleasure to be with you today. I do have the honor of serving as chairman of the LSU board. And I want to say to everyone, especially the Tate family, I alone get all the credit for hiring William Tate. Okay, maybe that's not true. But I do take credit for asking James Williams and Mary Werner and Ramey Starnes, Valencia Jones, Glenn Armentor as LSU board members to serve on the search committee, along with a dozen or so other volunteers who worked extremely hard, and they did a wonderful job, and they truly get the credit. I'd ask those board members to please stand in the audience and hear. These folks did a tremendous amount of work. Their charge from the entire board was to find the best president for Louisiana State University. They did a great job. So since I appointed the committee, I'm still taking the credit. I've had the pleasure of working with Bill Tate during this transition every day. I've had the pleasure of hanging out with him on the golf course a little bit. He has demonstrated an iron resolve. He's got a quick wit and a great desire to lead this university to new heights. At this point, I'm supposed to give you an introduction and tell you all about Bill's history and biography and his academic achievements. Let me just say, as we B students like to say, he's a real life smart guy. And he's done a lot of smart things just like all these other folks. He is going to lead this university to new heights. I'm not going to tell you about Bill's past because he wants to concentrate on the future, as does your board and as does this university. It is my great pleasure to introduce you to the face of the future of LSU, Dr. William Tate. President Tate, will you please join me? President Tate, with the support of the faculty, staff, students, alumni, and friends of this great university, and before your family and distinguished company gathered today, it is my privilege and pleasure to install you as the 28th president of Louisiana State University, and only the second to preside over the entire 8-campus consolidated families of institutions. And as a token of these powers, I have bestowed upon you the official medallion. In accepting this medallion, you have received the powers and the obligations along with the challenges and the joys which attend this high office. You have our collective best wishes and our highest hopes. Congratulations.
Supervisor Damp, thank you. You and your wife, Courtney, have been amazing in our transition. I'm grateful to you. And on behalf of my family, I offer our thanks to the LSU Board of Supervisors for your support and vote of confidence. I extend my thanks to all the staff and faculty members that invested in planning this event. I am honored that the Faculty Senate, Staff Senate, and student representation from the LSU community, along with the LSU's institutional leaders, stand with me today. And to my family members, friends, and colleagues that have traveled from near and far to participate, I am grateful. My immediate family, Kim, Quentin, and Cameron, have been a source of love and support. Kim, my wife, would you please stand? I can't see you, but thank you. She's joined by my daughter, Cameron. Got to give you a shout out. Where are you? Please stand. I'm also blessed that my mother is here. Would you please stand? You can blame anything you don't like in this speech on her. She was the one who started me giving speeches. And I'll tell you, my coaching life, it actually happened in the Little League championship. We won the championship. You remember the Michael Reese Little League, the Red Hats. We took the chip, and my mother said, you're going to give the speech, and you're going to do it in such a way that you make everyone else who did not win feel okay about it. And I think I succeeded at that. It was my first role being an ambassador, if you will. So I thank you for that very much and all that you've done for me. It means the world to me to share this moment with my high school classmates from Quigley Preparatory Seminary South. I'm going to ask you to stand if you're part of that crew. We call our motto, pray and work. We were afforded a wonderful education, and I'm honored to share this day also with representatives from my college fraternity, where the aims, manly deeds, scholarship, and love for all mankind guided. I'll ask you to stand as well. I'll honestly say this. I really wouldn't be standing here without them. You know who you are. I appreciate you. Colleagues, in today's processional, it included the presidents of DePaul University and Claflin University, as well as representatives from my high school sister higher education institution, Loyola University in Chicago, Loyola Medical Center, the University of Florida, Syracuse University, the University of Arkansas at Little Rock, the University of Illinois at Urbana, Cal State University Northridge, Washington University in St. Louis, and let me say this, to my colleagues from Washington University, 18 years of my life there, 2 of my children graduated from that institution. I'm an alumnus of that institution. I would not be standing here without WashU. In the University of South Carolina, where I was baptized in the SEC. And I want to tell you that baptism was extremely important. And I want to thank all of my colleagues from South Carolina, both the university and the community. You know what you did for me. I thank you for your support. And if you're listening in today, I appreciate your investment of time and look forward to partnering with you in the community. I'd also like to say in my 60-plus days here, I've worked with Commissioner Kim Reed Hunter, and Kim Hunter Reed, forgive me, it's the pandemic. And she's been amazing. And I just really want to thank her for participating and many others. Today's investiture links LSU to the installation and ceremony history made prominent in the medieval period. The LSU connection to this era includes many symbols, decor, and attire represented in our ceremony. However, our historical connection extends beyond academic regalia and related traditions. In 1965, James Baldwin, a keen observer of social relations, remarked, "History, as nearly no one seems to know, is not merely something to be read, and it does not refer merely or even principally to the past. On the contrary, the great force of history comes from the fact that we carry it within us, are unconsciously controlled by it in many ways, and history is literally present in all that we do. It could scarcely be otherwise, since it is history that we owe our frames of reference, our identities, and our aspirations." Frame of reference, identity, aspirations. These three ideas linked to history merit discussion as they relate to the most common question I have received since arriving at LSU. How did you get here? My response has varied, but the answer consistently includes Chicago by way of Mississippi. I offer this geographic identity as it links to my cultural frame of reference and a major influence in my life. My maternal grandparents were from Mississippi. My grandmother's family hailed from the jewel of the Delta, the Mound Bayou, Mississippi region, less than a 2-hour drive from the Louisiana border. And my grandfather was reared in humble beginnings in SEC country. If I'm correct, there's a picture behind me, one showing where he was actually reared, and one showing my brothers and me with my grandparents. He was born in Oxford, or lived in Oxford, Mississippi. And my grandparents did not meet in Mississippi. Both experienced the African-American migration out of the South in pursuit of greater opportunity for their families. They met in the Windy City, Chicago, married, and raised a family. My grandfather's passion for education was intense, and that's an understatement, and part of an intergenerational vision. My brothers and I were a part of that vision. My grandparents implemented a high expectations and high support approach to education. It was drilled into me, scholarship first. Billy, my grandfather, would say, "The world is filled with foolishness. Focus on your books." Scholarship first is a term I have used to describe my aspirations for LSU. I envision an LSU where the priorities of research and discovery, a first-rate teaching, learning, and clinical practice environment, and securing resources that include scholarships to advance opportunity for those heretofore ignored or who have the merit thereof and are residents of this great state or interested in being part of this community are given that award. My remarks today focus on aspirations. Aspirations, I envision, serving as guides for our collective action to serve the people of the great state of Louisiana. LSU tradition informs the articulation of these aspirations. Yet today, please allow me to start at the sunset of the medieval era. In the early 1500s, one of the first gifts endowing a professorship was awarded to advance the theological mission of Cambridge University. Named for Lady Margaret, the chair was awarded to John Fisher. He was a scholar's scholar. Imagine a medieval version of LSU's esteemed boy professors, or the others who hold endowed professorships on our campuses. Fisher held many important roles, including Bishop of Rochester, England, and Chancellor of Cambridge University. In his leadership of Cambridge University, Fisher placed a great value on classical education, Greek and Latin, and he introduced Hebrew to the curriculum as well. Adopted nearly 300 years later at Louisiana State Seminary of Learning and Military Academy, the classical approach to education served as the foundational curriculum approach for the early instantiations of LSU. The history of LSU indicates that this approach to education aligned with the educational model at Thomas Jefferson's University of Virginia. Moreover, the approach was contested at that time as supporters of the seminary preferred the scientific, military, and literacy approach of Virginia Military Institute. Contested matters represent an important and real part of the life of a great university. John Fisher's life reflected how contested matters require values and principles of engagement for living in a university community embedded in a larger public sphere. Fisher was a true public intellectual in that he served as the tutor and advisor to King Henry VIII. He shouldn't have took that job. Well chronicled, Henry VIII's history with women, matters of fertility, and his pursuit of divorce represented major ethical breaches and moral failures in light of the accepted value system associated with the prevailing accountability norms of the time. John Fisher, the Lady Margaret Professor, took a public stand against the king's efforts to declare his marriage to Queen Catherine null and void. His defense of Catherine came with a price. Fisher's public position, based on canon, principle, ethics, and moral conviction, contributed to and ultimately cost the first holder of the Lady Margaret Professorship at Cambridge his head. He was executed by the king, his former student. This tale informs three values highlighting for those charged with educating students in the university context, in particular here at LSU. Fisher pursued truth. He demonstrated empathy, and he displayed courage. Truthfulness and the pursuit of truth represent foundational values. However, it must be understood that in many cases, the truth will come with a price. Over the course of our history as a university, LSU scholars worked on vaccines and treatments to address what one historian called the most terrible of all ministers of death, smallpox. Today, students entering LSU provide proof of immunization or protection against measles, mumps, rubella, tetanus, and meningitis. Smallpox is not on the list. My epidemiological training compels me to share a bit more about smallpox and its history as it relates to seeking truth, demonstrating empathy, and displaying courage, the scholarship-first agenda for LSU. In the United States, smallpox vaccination ceased in the 1970s as the disease was eradicated. However, the vaccinations were required in my youth. My mother is here, and I know for a fact she took me to receive their treatment. And as she may recall, they dropped a bit of vaccine virus on my arm, the upper left part. The drop was inoculated into my skin with what looked like a pitchfork, but it wasn't. It was a two-pronged stainless steel needle. That puncture wound went in 3 times, people. And my first, I still have that wound. It's still here. And in case, you didn't know this, the smallpox vaccination recipients, those of us who endured that, caused a residual lifetime scar, but something more important. We ended it. All of us who received the vaccination created the conditions across the globe to halt a horrible disease that killed 30 out of every 100 persons infected. It has been estimated that 300 million people died of smallpox. Records suggest that smallpox killed more people in the history of the world than any other infectious disease combined. Part of the history of the vaccine's development aligns with the land-grant, agricultural, and mechanical mission of LSU. During the 18th century smallpox plague, it was well known in the dairy farm areas of the country of England that milkmaids and other farmhands who contracted cowpox from working with cows were afterwards immune to smallpox. These immune people served as the nurses to smallpox victims without fear of disease themselves. The medical community slowly learned of the immunity link between cowpox and smallpox, but the approach was slow in acceptance, and many died. Enter Benjamin Jetsey, a farmer in Dorset, England. Jetsey and 2 of his female servants had been infected with cowpox. I just want to say he was a farmer, just like the farmers we have here in Louisiana. When the smallpox epidemic struck his community in 1774, Jetse acted to save his family. He inoculated his wife and 2 eldest sons by infecting them with smallpox. The farmer secured an infected cow, removed pus material from the cow, and using a darning needle, transferred the material into his family members by scratching their arms. Jetse's vaccination experiment was met with a hostile action by his neighbors. Labeled inhuman, Jetse was screamed at, harassed, pelted, and whenever he attended markets in the community, just disrespected. The prevailing social norms and ethos characterized transferring animal disease to a human body as disgusting, and some speculated the vaccine would transform his family members into horned beasts. Despite being ostracized, his family's vaccination proved effective and withstood the test of waves of the epidemic. Jetse's children never acquired the disease, while many neighbors died. Jetse's case changed the course of history. Jetse was a man of agriculture, like many of the good people here in Louisiana. He possessed a mechanical tool and a keen eye for observing patterns. This saved his children and families' lives, and countless others benefited directly. It took sustained scientific investment in planning to eradicate smallpox in the United States. Nearly 200 years later, it happened. LSU community members, supporters of this fine land-grant university, advanced by an 1862 mission to focus on teaching practical agriculture, science, military, and engineering without excluding other scientific and classical studies. We are this generation's Benjamin Jetse. And like Jetse, we live in a society during a worldwide epidemic, and the world is counting on us to operate like Jetse, seek truth, demonstrate courage, and hold to empathy in the face of critics. Truly, lives depend on it. This would not be an easy task for us. Some of you may know that in its early conception, the leaders of LSU looked to the University of Virginia as a model for the course of study. Virginia was established by the ideas of Thomas Jefferson, a leader who set the course for the establishment of this state. Jefferson, in a letter to John Adams, offers a word of warning and encouragement that applies to our time and future aspirations. Jefferson stated, "But even in Europe, a change has sensibly taken place in the mind of man. Science had liberated the ideas of those who read and reflected, and the American example had kindled feelings of right in the people. An insurrection has consequentially begun of science, talents, and courage against rank and birth, which have fallen into contempt. It has failed in its first effort because mobs of the city, the instrument used for its accomplishment, debased by ignorance, poverty, and vice, could not be constrained to rational action. But the world will recover from the panic of this first catastrophe." In our times, the fight in opposition to science and an understanding of history line our streets and patrol social media. Jefferson warned us of their existence, yet he believed the pursuit of truth would win out. So do I. And I am counting on LSU to lead us to a better future. Louisiana, and by extension LSU, are part of a Jeffersonian compact. Coined during his presidency, George H.W. Bush described a Jeffersonian compact to enlighten students by way of education. In Jefferson's view, an informed and active citizen to engage the Republic was essential for our country's viability. LSU is a foundational institution to achieve this aspiration and to do so in a fashion that is accessible, affordable, and inclusive. Yet our compact is under duress, financially and politically. Some argue we have outlived our usefulness. I am reminded of my favorite holiday movie, It's a Wonderful Life. George Bailey, the main character, experiences a significant financial hardship, and the political forces in the form of the banks and legal community are coming for him. A great man with empathy and courage, he loses faith. In this fantasy drama, he is able to see the world without his presence. Imagine with me today a world without the university. Ponder it. No seatbelts, no GPS, no Google, no TV, no internet, no computers, no wind tunnels, no Richter scales, no rocket fuel, no oil refining, no solar power, no pH meter, no insulin, no chemotherapy drugs, no Allegra, no polio vaccine, no flu shots, no bone marrow transplants, no pacemakers, no CAT scans, no MRI scanners, no vitamin D fortification. You pick your favorite thing you learned at a university. It doesn't exist. This week, we announced that LSU Baton Rouge faculty garnered a record $166 million in research and contracts just over this past year, making contributions to many areas, including biomedical research, counterterrorism, machine learning, cancer research, resiliency and climate-induced hazards, mental health services connected to education, sustainability of coastal communities and shorelines. You should know that every research dollar in Louisiana produces nearly a 3-to-1 economic benefit to the state. This year's record research equates to roughly $480 million in economic impact to Louisiana. We possess world-class basic clinical and population health science taking place at LSU Medical Center Shreveport. I witnessed the COVID research myself. I visited LSU Health Center New Orleans, where they have an elite burn unit and research enterprise, outstanding neuroscience. I drove over to Pennington Medical Research Center and watched the scholars and researchers do obesity research, diabetes research, and look at dementia. In my tours of LSU units, I looked at and saw faculty members ingrained in and committed to engaging their undergraduates in research. I've been to LSU Alexandria, where I've seen outstanding chemical and biomedical research. I've been to LSU Shreveport, where I looked at a world-class design and computer animation system. I've been to the LSU Ag Center, and I heard farmers tell me that the biotechnology and social science applications there change the way they're able to do their work and can keep our agriculture moving. I've seen discovery and applied research in proportion to our investment that is trending in a positive direction. In totality, LSU's 8 campuses educate the majority of the state's doctors, dentists, nurses, teachers, veterinarians, lawyers, and other professionals with nearly $5 billion in economic impact, estimating the total life earnings enjoyed by LSU graduates at nearly $8.6 billion. Thanks to the modern university, and LSU in particular, we have experienced a wonderful life. Yet more is possible. Our collective challenge is to ensure that LSU endures as a symbol of truth-seeking, empathetic action, and courageous acts. All of us have been entrusted to avoid obituary like the one I'm going to read that may appear in The Advocate, let's say 100 years from now. Today, we mourn the death of an old friend, LSU, who has been with us for many centuries. She was born in 1860 and was previously known as Louisiana State Seminary of Learning and Military Academy. She provided many valuable contributions: a system of academic institutions, research contributions, economic development, healthcare. Her ag centers touched 64 parishes, all of them in the state. She provided national championships in many sports. Teachers, doctors, lawyers, social workers, engineers, business leaders, nonprofit leaders, artists, and creative minds across fields matriculated at LSU. LSU lived by simple, sound financial principles: only spend what you generate, and reliable strategies of faculty, and staff governance. Her health began to deteriorate when she lost sight of her core values, seeking truth, demonstrating empathy, and operating with courage. Reports of well-intending leaders shutting down humanities departments, fine arts, and other academic units associated with perceived limited career options, a lack of empathy expressed in the form of limited philanthropic support, and a failure to address the changing demographics only worsened her condition. The university lost ground when leaders promoted pet projects that lacked synergy and purpose. Self-interest reigned. It took a beating when it could not defend its actions to this newspaper. She finally gave up the will to live when former students revolted because their experiences without humanistic preparation left them unable to learn on the job, relate to others, or read deeply. Many screamed, "You betrayed the line in the LSU alma mater, motor of mankind," as they protested in the thousands. The university was preceded in death by her parents, learning and teaching, by her husband, truth, by her daughter, courage, by her son, empathy, by her niece, academic rigor, by her nephew, disciplined thinking. She is survived by her 5 stepbrothers, Twitter, micro-credential, fake news, pseudoscience, and ahistorical thinking. No one attended her funeral, as Baton Rouge is a ghost town due to the pandemics, and the rest of the state thought it was fake news planted by a University of Alabama operative. However, very much like the comment attributed to the novelist and renowned storyteller of the life on the Mississippi River, Mark Twain, I paraphrase, "The reports of our death have been greatly exaggerated. Colleagues, our survival and ability to flourish rests on our covenantal standing. In many respects, we are in a marriage. LSU's covenantal relationship exists with our state and its residents. Since 1860, the state of Louisiana has invested in LSU, and we have provided a great return in that investment. And while our relationship continues, I urge us to take the time to renew our vows to the state. We must build on and recommit to our investment in agriculture. In one history of LSU, I read where the university leadership in the early 1900s visited institutions such as the University of Illinois, the University of Wisconsin at Madison, and the University of Tennessee to benchmark their efforts in agriculture. The takeaway at the time was to invest in agriculture and ensure that agriculture was fully integrated into the campus. We have that opportunity today to evaluate, pivot, and improve. We need better infrastructure in science, engineering, and technology. And if I learned anything from the lessons of reading LSU history over the last 60+ days, is that improving the science, engineering, and technology infrastructure also resulted in better infrastructure for the humanities and social sciences in other areas. We must continue to commit to coastal science. If the alerts today have said nothing to you, that is a primary thing we have to engage. We have a top 20 program if we look at the totality of investment in coastal science here at LSU, one of the very best in the world. Energy and alternative energy remains a target that we have to double down on. I must say this, classical approaches to education and reading deeply can never be forsaken. If you have learned nothing else from the Twitter wars of today, is that few people read deeply and for long periods of time. We must promote that. I believe, friends, in looking at history deeply. This institution was started with a military idea in mind. I frankly think we should be the premier ROTC place in the United States, with leadership in cybersecurity leading the way in our efforts. We must improve our graduate education and related supports. Great universities are known by great graduate students, and we've got to provide their supports. There are many other areas, but largely what I would like to announce is that we will go into a strategic planning effort and make sure that the community voices are heard. My friends, while renewing our commitments as if we were renewing our vows, I think we also must think about giving birth to new approaches. In particular, I believe we should prioritize sustaining our faculty. Let me offer you an example from my days in St. Louis. I've said this to some of you, and I'm going to offer it more broadly in these remarks. I moved to St. Louis from, you heard me, the Windy City. There were a lot of Cubs fans, White Sox fans. My children were young when I moved there, 20 years ago. We embraced the Cardinals. It was a big deal for us. What I noticed when I went in the Cardinals Stadium were all the flags hanging around the stadium. And I said, wow, the Cardinals always seem to win. It dawned on me they always won. And I asked myself, well, why do they always win? Because the Cardinals have an amazing farm team. And they pick people when they're young, at 18, and they develop them and they invest in them. And by the time they get to AAA ball, they've advanced to a level where either they keep them for the big league team or they trade them off as assets. This is very much like the university life. And our faculty members are very much like professionals who play sports. We bring them here at the beginning of their careers. You saw one today at Pennington. An amazing scholar. I've been to her lab. We invest in them. We develop them. And then something, because of our system, happens that investment and engagement is not sustained. And unlike Major League Baseball, they're free agents. And teams that want to hang the flag, the flagship, come in and they take our assets. And they treat us like we're a farm team. I have no intention as president of LSU of running a farm team. This is a flagship. And we're going to hang our flag and win our championships because we are going to invest in our faculty, because they are the foundation to scholarship first. We must prioritize, as I said, graduate education. We must invest in securing great postdoctoral fellows. It's not a tradition here. It's something we're going to have to give birth to. We have great and new possibilities for collaboration within the LSU system. In my tour across the campuses, one area manifests itself very clearly, and that was computational science and informatics. We need to give birth to greatness in those areas. It was clear to me as well, visiting our medical centers, as well as Pennington, and talking to our life scientists and biomedical scientists here on campus, as well as social scientists working on eradicating disease, that we should prioritize the NCI Designated Cancer Center designation here for LSU. The National Cancer Act in 1971 allowed for this designation to manifest itself. Louisiana is painfully one of the highest rates for cancer disparities and cancer rates in this country. The state's death rate for cancer is nearly 183 out of every 100,000, placing us 10th in the United States. It must be a priority for the flagship to eradicate that kind of death rate. Just like with smallpox, we've got to fight cancer in the same way. You've seen comparative frames today, examples that were given from Mr. Roy Martin, Dr. White, Bree Robinson. There are many, many other examples that exist. Now, those of you who know me know that I have two kinds of speeches. The one that's on paper and the one I'm about to give you right now. There's no paper for this. I have been to many universities throughout my professional career. I started my doctoral work at the University of Maryland, College Park. That is where I met my wife. And while I was at Maryland, I saw a fixation by those Terrapins on the University of Michigan. Every comparative frame was about, we want to be better than Michigan. We want to be better than Michigan. Even though we were in the ACC and the Michigan was in the Big Ten, it was still that comparative frame. What I noticed is that my colleagues at Maryland never paid attention to the great things that were happening at Maryland because they were so fixated on the comparative frame. And when I left Maryland, we moved to Madison, Wisconsin, where I was on the faculty at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Now, Wisconsin, they don't think about Michigan because they know they're better than Michigan. I know you are. I don't have any Michigan people behind me, do I? I got to watch my back. But they never really fixated on Michigan. They fixated on Berkeley. And we want to be better than Berkeley. And all the great things that were happening at UW-Madison, that fixation on Berkeley, it just didn't seem like, I'll get to it. Then I leave Madison, and I go to Washington University in St. Louis, one of the nation's finest academic institutions, an amazing place, resource-rich. No matter what we did, I saw fixation with the University of Chicago. And it was always Chicago did this, and Chicago did that. Not so much Emory or Vanderbilt, because we knew we were better than them. Then I go to South Carolina. And there's that school up north that to this day I will never mention their name. But there was a fixation with them. And always juxtaposing what that school up north did in the University of South Carolina. And this thing was just fascinating to me. And as I pondered it, what have I experienced here? Because in all of those places, they were doing amazing things. And I arrive here and I meet my colleagues who are head of the institutions within the LSU system, and they take a nickel and they turn it into a quarter. And I say to you, let's give them $1 and find out what they could do. The reality is, here at LSU, I know there's lament. We're not this, or we don't have that. But I have noticed a pride here, and I'm going to call upon that today. We are outstanding at what we do. We can be better, but do not, for any way, consume the New York Times or any newspaper putting you down. We are a great institution with many fine assets. You can juxtapose yourself into not recognizing what you really have and value it. Scholarship first, you all. It's in my heart. My family is here. I waited. I see some of them sleep. You better wake them up. I'm going to ask my family to stand, all of you in my family. I waited to the end for this. Thank you all. This group is why I believe scholarship first is important. I told you about my grandfather. They're part of that legacy. All of them are part of it. Some of them didn't want to be part of it, but he made you be part of it because he said you're going to go to school, you're going to learn, you're going to take advantage of the educational opportunities before you. We're going to sacrifice, and it's not just going to be you, my children, who are going to have a chance to go to college. It's going to be your children, and it's going to be their children. And that's exactly what happened. He had a multi-generational vision. I have a multi-generational vision. I'm a product of my grandfather. You all have a seat. Thank you. You heard Mr. Martin talk about his family. I was moved, sir. You talk about generation after generation who could take advantage of what we have to offer. We just have to make it accessible. So that's my passion. And I really want you to know I'm here to make that happen. Now, I did start my speech talking about my grandparents, and I wonder what they would say today. I must tell you honestly, this moment is if I had scripted it, it would have been a little earlier because my aunt would have been here. She was with us and me for every single major ceremony of my life. When I was a college student, hanging out with my fraternity brothers, she pulled me out of my wayward and in my father. The one person whenever said, I want to be a university president, who consistently said, go for it. Now, I'm going to go back to my grandfather. He's a pretty proper guy, hardcore, worked in a foundry, I believe. It was no mincing words with that guy. I wonder what he would say today. And I believe he would have been short and to the point. I think he would have said, forever LSU. Now, I'm built a little different. I am his spawn. So what I have to say to you is framed a little differently. But I want to thank you for your attention. Chairman Damp, you know what I'm going to say, don't you? Go Tigers! Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. President. That image of that pitchfork is going to stay with me, I want you to know. What a wonderful way to introduce a tremendous effort, tremendous opportunity for Louisiana State University to move ahead. Scholarship first. One of the primary roles of the president of a university is to help raise money to advance that university's mission. And I'm delighted to announce that in just the first effort accompanying the Scholarship First initiative, it's gotten tremendous resonance in the community. The president is hosting a small dinner tonight in conjunction with this event. This dinner has raised $600,000 already. Thank you, Mr. President. And if you go into your pocket for your wallet or into your purse for your wallet and you shake hands with the president, then you know he's asking for help. Mr. President, as an LSU alum, I'm not sure I can speak for every alum, but I can tell you there are hundreds of thousands of us who are willing to join this team and move this university forward. And so I encourage you, as we used to say in politics, to use us or to abuse us, whatever helps you more. We stand ready to help. In just a moment, we're going to hear the alma mater. And as a graduate of this particular campus, and I reflect on many of you in the audience and watching who are also graduates, you're going to hear about stately oaks and broad magnolias. Those trees helped form us. They help nurture us. They help protect us in the shadows of this great university's inspiring halls. These trees have long histories. They have deep roots. And these roots are constantly nourished and strengthened with the memories of graduates all over the world. They are all tethered to this hallowed ground. They have planted in it so much of their time, so much of their talent and so much of their treasure. They have trusted their futures to LSU. They have bet their lives on it, and it has been a great bet. Ladies and gentlemen, Louisiana State University, alma mater, please rise.
Where stately oaks and broad magnolias shade inspiring halls, there stands a dear old alma mater who to us recalls fond memories that waken in our hearts a tender glow, and make us happy for the love that we have learned to know. All praise to thee, O alma mater, mother of mankind. May greater glory, love unending be forever thine. Our worth in life shall be thy worth, we pray to keep it true. And may thy spirit live in us
Forever LSU! Go Tigers! Now, ladies and gentlemen, please join us in applauding our president, William F. Tate IV, as he is serenaded by none other than the Louisiana State University Tiger Marching Band. Mike the Tiger will now lead the processional into the Union Ballroom. Those in the audience, please remain seated as they exit. Processional members seated below, please join the processional as it passes. Mr. President, if you can twirl that, you can be the drum major.